Hello, and welcome to 6DOF Reviews. I am Pete Austin, and today I'm gonna be kicking some ass. And that is, of course, because today I am going to be playing Final Fury. Final Fury, for those of you who do not know, is, as far as I know, the first proper attempt at bringing a Street Fighter II style fighting game into VR. Now, this is one of the shapes of my dream game. I have played so many hours of Street Fighter II. I have spent so many hours imagining what would it be like in VR that I have been following the progress of Final Fury since its very first announcement eagerly, with bated breath. In fact, for full disclosure, I have actually worked with Cluj on testing at several points throughout the last year or so. And so I have a little bit of insight onto what the game has been and what it is now, and I'd like to share that with you, if I may, because it launches today, and I have a lot of thoughts. I have thoughts. So, first and foremost, let's get the elephant out of the room, or let's address the elephant in the room, whichever is the better phrasing of that. Final Fury is not quite it. It's not the thing that I personally wanted to fulfill my Street Fighter in VR fantasy, but, and there's a big old but on this one, it does a lot right, and it is not by any stretch of the imagination a write-off. There is a lot of potential to work with. I personally have 3 core suggestions that I think if they were to be implemented, this would shoot from being somewhere around the 5 or 6 out of 10 mark to, 8 and 8.5. But that's just my opinion. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about it. At launch, there are 5 playable characters that you can play right from the start, with a 6th playable boss that is unlockable as you complete the arcade mode. The arcade mode is decent. The AI is okay. You can play it on easy, medium, and hard. And again, it reminds me of back in the day when you were a kid and your friends weren't around, so you would just play Street Fighter against the AI all the way through to completion. But of course, like any true fighting game, multiplayer is most likely where it's at. And I will admit that for all the testing I've done, I have played a very small amount of matches of multiplayer. So there is still a vast undiscovered threshold of goodness or not goodness waiting for me to discover. One thing I will say is the potential for it to be not great based on your opponent is quite high. And I don't mean this insultingly, but Omar and I played 3 games. Omar did not learn the moves or the controls and spent the entire time spamming one move and telling me how terrible the game was. And that was no fun. That was no fun for anyone. I'm sure that if you are playing with people who are slightly more enthusiastic and getting into it, it will be much more enjoyable. But there is a serious issue, I think, around the depths of the gameplay that means that even in that situation, that most favorable of situations, you are still going to come up short fairly soon. So let's just finish off talking about what the game really is and what it does before I start telling you about what I think it should do. So you go into the game, it's a very good visual style for the type of game. Straight away, it's quite exciting. You think, oh god, I'm in the game, this is really, really good. Each of the characters have their own visual personality, and that also translates into their moves. Special moves are gesture-based for the most part, and they are fairly varied. So instead of having 6 characters that all do the same thing, you will get different moves, different gesture-based maneuvers. So Tempest, for example, she has a move that is much like the classic Ryu or Ken Hadouken. She has another move where she'll sweep her hand up and spring forth icicles in front of her. You've got other characters like Glitch, who is a very beginner-friendly character whose moves are you just hold down the grip and then press the trigger, so there's no gesture necessary, and anywhere in between. So each character has 2 special moves, and they are quite themed around that character's playstyle. One of the things that Final Fury does, I think, very well is rather than having you actually have melee-style combat like Thrill of the Fight 2, where you're actually punching each other, you can't really get that close. But when you do punch, your punch gives a basic projectile style attack. So what that does is it completely eliminates this idea of everyone just walking next to each other and flailing around, waving their hands in each other's faces. You do need to stay back, but depending on the character that you're using, your range will be quite different. So certain characters are based on movement and controlling the arena and dashing in and out, whereas other characters are more about keeping your distance and controlling the space that way. And I think that is a very, very effective way of administering this style of gameplay. I think it really, really works. It needs a little bit more nuance, I think, but as a starting point, it is a elegant solve to, I think, one of the biggest problems of how do I put that type of game into this type of medium. So well done, Cluj. Well done. So as far as your character goes, you have, I think it's 5 main things that you can do. So you can block, and it's just a standard block. The block will block any blockable attack. You just put your hands in front of your face and that's it. You can punch, and you just stick your arm out and it will send a fist flying. You can throw. The throw is administered through a sonic boom style gesture for those aficionados of the genre. So your hands start out wide and come in close, and that will do a throw, and that is one of the only points where you will actually disembody yourself. The camera comes up from the top and you see the throw animation play out, and that's quite cool actually. And then each character will have their 2 special moves, and there's also what they call a reversal, which is after you've blocked enough attacks, you'll build up a little bit of power, and if the opponent keeps coming in close, you can do a move that effectively pushes them back. But that's it. That's everything that you've got. There are no combos, there are only 2 special moves per character, and so after you've been playing for a little while and you've got the feel for the characters, that's it. It gets a little bit repetitive a little bit quickly. Like I said, all the potential is there, but the execution on depth just isn't quite. Now, the other thing you've got is a dash button, and so that's how you move forward, back quickly. You can do that slowly, or move side to side in sort of the 3D fighting style. That's a little bit finicky. I'm not super happy with the execution of it, but also what I will say is there was an iteration of this game that I played like 12 to 18 months ago where you could jump, and they've taken that out, and it is, in my opinion, just so sorely detrimental to the game to not have that jump. If you were an old school Street Fighter style player, you'll remember so many of the combos were about jump forward, heavy kick, down, sweep kick. Like, the special moves were great, but you had all of your combos on your basic attacks, and that's what made the game really great, as well as the aerial components. So the loss of that, I think, is a real detriment to the game. As I said, there are 6 fighters. 6 fighters is a fine starting point. I don't think you necessarily need more until you know if a game's going to be a success, but they will need more over time. The sound is excellent. It feels exactly like being inside a late 90s arcade machine. It gets a little bit repetitive with the same like vocal sample for every special move, but that's how it always was, wasn't it? How many times have you heard Hadouken, Hadouken? It's just how it is. So I thought the sounds were a real standout feature. The graphics were pretty good. Like I wasn't super fond of the chunky forearm gauntlet design choice, but you know what, everything else seemed great. Like when it loads up and you're in it and you can see your opponent like walking towards you and you know you're about to throw a Hadouken, it felt great. Like, so the sense of presence and just the excitement of embodying a fighting game is there. It really is there. It just doesn't hold out for that long. So what I would say, Cluj, Pavel, if you're listening, you've probably heard this all before, but I'm going to say it again. The 3 things that I think that will take this from being a little bit mediocre to really fantastic are, in order of importance, a complete revamp of the movement system so that you are faster, easier to dart around, and can jump again so that there is a sense of verticality. That is my number one. That would go a huge way to improving the game in my eyes. The second thing, and again, I think this is super, super important, each character needs more special moves. Don't worry about giving us more characters yet. I think we can survive on 6, but 2 special moves, when you consider that the basics aren't there, you can only punch, there are no real combos, you need to give us more. You need to absolutely give us more special moves per character. I'm going to say 4. I need 4 per character, and then we'll be happy. And then the third and final thing is combos. I don't really mind how it's administered. I know that I've suggested to you the ways that I think it could be done over the time, and fine, that's definitely not the direction that you guys want to go into, and I won't hammer on about that, but it needs combos. Right now, the best you can do is sort of like punch, punch, special move, special move. Like, it's so limited in how you can string moves together that feel powerful and fluid and flow state. And I think when you look at a game like Synth Riders, which is their previous game, which is all about flow state, I'd love to see some of that energy brought into how these fights take place. But for me, revamp the movement system. You're up from a 5 to a 6.5. Give every character in the game 2 more moves at least, and you're up from a 6.5 to a 7.5. Throw combos in, you're up from a 7.5 to an 8.5. Like, that's, for me, it's quite simple. And then after that, if you want to iterate new characters, I'll take them, because at that point, I will be playing this game. So there you have it, guys. That is my first impressions of Final Fury, and it's not really first impressions. As I say, I've been testing this game for a year and a half. To the good folk at Cluj, I would like to formally thank you for being so open and receptive to my feedback. My feedback was not always positive, and the team took it with aplomb. They were really, really gracious and great about the whole thing, and it was a pleasure working with you. I am sorry that I'm not more positive about the game as it currently stands, but I honestly, truly do mean it. The potential is there, and I think with just a few more tweaks, you could get it. You could absolutely get it. And so if you've enjoyed this video, please do press the like button, give the thumbs up. If you would like to hear more about the various games and things that I did as a child with games, hit the subscribe button now. And other than that, I bid you adieu and a happy gaming. Double round.